Hello, Unified community. Welcome to the Unified Exchange podcast, where we at Special Olympics Minnesota share ideas and stories that foster inclusion in and outside the classroom. Each episode, you can expect us to cover a variety of topics to help grow the unified programming happening at your school. Our hope is that these conversations can inspire change, cultivate leaders, and transform environments that embrace each other's differences.
Welcome to the Unified Exchange podcast. I am so excited to be here today with some of our fantastic youth leaders and an educator mentor. So let's pass it right over to you all to introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Rylynn. I'm an athlete, a youth ambassador, and now I'm on the Global Youth Leadership Council.
Hi, I'm Paula Harrison. I am a mentor, former educator.
Hi, my name is Thomas Blair. I'm a student at the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, Minnesota. I've been involved with Unified for 6 years, and me and Rylynn are both currently Global Youth Leadership Council members.
Awesome. Thank you. So I kind of go back to the beginning of the story and share a favorite memory that you both have from high school, which I think is when you all met.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do you want to? Yeah, you take this.
One of our favorite memories is the first day we met, which was freshman year in our school's Unified Club. And Tom didn't really know anyone. I knew more people in that club, and I helped introduce Tom to a lot of people in that club. And from that day, our friendship just grew.
That's so cool.
Yeah, Rylynn was super popular. I felt like a little embarrassed because I was just walking into this new place, and Rylynn was just like, "Hey, like let me show you around. Let me introduce you to some people." I'm gonna change mine just for sake of stories, but when I knew that I was like really passionate about Unified was actually because of Miss Harrison mainly, and I've talked about this. I mean, she's rolling her eyes because I've said this over and over again, but I love telling this story. But I was a part of our school's basketball team at the time, so I wasn't legally allowed to play on our Unified basketball team. And Miss Harrison was just like, "Oh, great, well then you can just coach, and I don't have to." So freshman me, I was just like, what? Like, I barely know anything about this club. I don't really know what I'm doing. Like, I've never been a coach before. But it was super fun freshman year. Kind of just got the ropes, like really just kind of figured it out. But then sophomore year, same setup as before. We actually ended up winning the Unified Basketball Championship, state championship. And I like can see it in my head, the memory of like winning that game. Was like that last minute when we realized like we're gonna win this game, like we just won the state championship, and like it was just such a surreal feeling, was just watching all of my friends that I'd made over the years playing basketball and just hanging out in Unified Club, and just like that pure like ecstatic joy. It was just something that I've never really witnessed, and being able to like bring that to the table and then letting them take care of it kind of thing was just like, that was when I knew I was like, I had a tear in my eye. I was just like, this is what I want to do.
That's so cool. That's awesome. That's some good coaching.
Well, and another thing that Tom and his coaches did was they always had fan buses for all the other sports. And Tom and his friends went to the athletic director, went to the principal and said, "We think we should be able to get a fan bus." And they made it happen, and we had the biggest crowd, and they were super supportive of all the kids. So that was a really big step.
That was a major thing that I definitely left out. But so for other varsity state tournaments, like say, I know for the girls soccer team at Stillwater, they made it to state tournament. So if you bought a ticket, then you got like an excused absence from class, and they had buses that went to and from the school to the field. And so we were like, well, like why is it any different? Like it's a state tournament, like students should be allowed to go. So we talked to the athletic director and the principal, and they were like, absolutely, you're right. And we basically were just telling everybody, we were just like, hey, we have a tournament, like, please come. Like, it's going to be super fun. Like, just please show up. And we were honestly, like, not expecting a lot of people to show up. And most of the other teams had, like, 2 or 3 rows. Like, it was mostly parents, close friends, siblings, that kind of thing. And by, like, the first half of the first game, we had, like, a whole section at Target Center, which is where the Timberwolves play, just full of students from our high school. And it was a huge impact because it was like one of our teammates would score and there was just this uproar of applause, and that definitely was a huge motivator.
Yeah.
And just seeing that support from outside coming in, that was also huge.
Rylynn, where were you that day? Do you remember that?
I do remember that. I was a player when Tom was coaching, and as a player, just seeing all those fans, it really makes it special for everyone on that team watching other students cheer you on.
Yeah, oh, that's such a cool memory. Thank you for sharing. Paula, I wanted to learn a little bit about what made you bring Unified to Stillwater.
Well, I had just accepted a position at the high school, and I knew I was going to have adapted students, and I knew I was going to have general ed, physical education students, and I'd gone to a conference, and at the conference, somebody was talking about Unified, and I was like, this is the smartest thing I've ever seen. We need to do this. So I rallied after that conference and went to talk to counselors and principals and, what do you think we should do? And they're like, this is a great idea. Everybody thought it was great. So I had to write a new course proposal to have it. And so I wrote the course, but you had to write it in September for the following year. So the first year that I was there, we didn't have it because you had to have the new course proposal. So I did that and started with one class, and by the time I retired, that's all I did was I taught Unified full-time because we had so many kids that were interested in it, and it was the right thing to do, and it still is the right thing to do.
You keep trying to retire, but we keep getting you back for Unified.
She's too good. They keep bringing her back.
Yeah, we can't let you go. What were some of the barriers that you faced, that kind of waiting the year for it to get started?
Waiting that, probably just convincing people how to schedule it with our special needs students along with our, gen ed students, and that it was a leadership thing and it was something that they could take with them throughout life. And I think the convincing of people and really talking it up and, selling the whole program. And, so it started out as a barrier, but the more you shared it, the more people were really excited about it. So it really ended up being more, this seems like it is a common sense thing, and why haven't we been doing this all along? So,
When did you kind of start seeing the students taking leadership over? And it's like when you gave the coaching to Tom, did you kind of envision that you would be at the state capitol, or not the state capitol, at the Target Center, but also the state capitol?
Also there.
And also the nation's capital.
Yes, all of those capitals.
Yes.
It first started out when the Tom thing, for instance, was, I don't like basketball. I seriously.
She said that to me word for word. She's like, I don't like basketball, so you're gonna coach.
And being a physical educator, I have so many people that laugh at me about that. And when I was approached by Special Olympics Minnesota to do a team, I'm like, sure, I'll do it, but I don't really know very much about it. So when he said he couldn't play, I was like, score. I do not have to be the one that's coaching. And it really was the best decision because they really connected. Like the students all connected. He got his buddies to help him out. Your, students that you, work with and knew so well, they just embraced Tom and his colleagues, so that was kind of fun. And then in class, it was funny how I first started it. We are the Trust Club. Like, this is our logo. And I didn't come up with that. I had students that were like, hey, we need to come up with a club name. Some other schools have club names. And so Trust was True Respect, Unify Students Together. And that was a student-led deal. And we picked presidents and co-presidents and people to be in charge of it from the student body rather than just always being me or teacher-led. So it started out pretty quickly because I think that was the message we got, was this is a student-led program rather than an adult or teacher-led program. So
I think of both of you, Rylynn and Tom, as kind of like leading student leadership for the state of Minnesota. So you were some of our founding members of our student board of directors. Then you were some of our first youth ambassadors, and now you're going to be definitely the state's first, but you're going to be on the global youth leadership experience. So, which is really incredible. Would you share a little bit? Maybe I know you met that first day of how your friendship grew to make you apply to those roles together, and then a little bit about what you've learned from each other as leaders.
Yeah, I think the best thing that Tom and I do when we have ideas, we bounce ideas off one another, and we work like, okay, what do we want? Make this our goal. Like, what do we want to do? How do we want to get something done? And we talk through, like, we give each other ideas. We talk to Ms. Harrison about different ideas we have. Like, we just have been communicating so well with each other, and I think that's such a big part of how us as leaders, we work so well together.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely the collaboration piece. And I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm just thankful that I even met Rylynn. Like, without Rylynn, I don't think me or Miss Harrison would even be sitting here. Even like I wouldn't even know anything about it. So I'm super grateful to have ever met Rylynn. But it's definitely that collaboration piece. I know that we had a trip to Madison, and the organization was skewed. So there's just like a lot of moving pieces around, and like we had one panel that got taken away, and then they're like, oh, actually, you're gonna give a speech tomorrow, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So me and Rylynn were just like, all right, you know what, let's do it. So we just sat down and we just literally just bounced off ideas, communicated, collaborated, and it was, I think, probably one of our best speeches that we ever gave.
I totally agree on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's amazing. What is some kind of favorite memories from being a youth ambassador that you both have had? You've done a lot of traveling, more to come. But what's a memory that comes to mind?
Kind of like this, Tom just said, doing our speech in front of everyone. I think that was such an important speech. We got to share our story on how we started out as friends, now we've become unified partners. And I think that was such a great speech that we gave, and it really showed everyone that how long we've been partners, we work really well together.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I don't know if I have like a particularly favorite memory, but like my favorite memory of the places that we've gone is like just being able to share our story, because I feel like that is one of the most impactful things for people to hear, is just for us to get up there and just be like, hey, this is how Unified changed my life. And that really resonates with people. And so just being able to have that ability to share our story and share it well is something that I've always enjoyed.
Well, and for me, I'm going to tell you my favorite thing is they made me cry.
So hard.
At that speech, I like sat there and I'm like, oh my gosh, they both have made me so proud. Like knowing these two, when you say like, what do these students do for you as a mentor and what have I learned? You learn so much from them. And I think there's a lot of adults out there that don't take that into account, that there's things you can learn from your students and from these particular two students that are leaders, and listening to them talk about how they collaborate. And they hammered it out. They sat down and went, okay, this changed, but we can do it this way. It wasn't like, woe is me, I can't do it. It's, what are we going to do to make it the best thing we can do?
Does it help you kind of go outside of your comfort zone to do something maybe that you weren't expecting to?
I think joining Unified was kind of me getting out of my comfort zone, like right away. Mm-hmm. Like I've already said this, but I genuinely, like I just really didn't know anything about Unified. And the way that I signed up in the first place was a friend was just like, hey, my sister did this and she really loved it. And it was like a club fair day or something at the high school. I was a freshman, like little fish in a big pond kind of thing. And I was just like, yeah, screw it. Like, let's just see what's going on. Kind of just jumped in head first. And it was the best decision that I've ever made. Just kind of like pushing myself out of that comfort zone. Because, I mean, not knowing anything about anything, like it's like trying snowboarding or surfing for the first time. It's like, I've never done this before. Mm-hmm. But then you do it and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, speaking of a lot of fun, you guys are going to be traveling. Can you share a little bit about your Global Youth Leadership Council, the travels that you're going to go on, and kind of some goals that you have for that?
Yeah, so next Friday we're going to leave for DC for our onboarding. And then in 2027, we'll be going to Santiago, Chile.
Yeah, we have an upcoming trip to DC. They're staying, so we have the global onboarding first in DC, and the next weekend we have the Special Olympics North America send-off, is the best way to describe it. And then in 2027, we're going to Santiago, Chile for the Special Olympics World Games, which I am super excited about.
Yes.
We applied this summer, and we heard back in July, I think.
Yeah.
And I was like, the whole day I was just watching like Special Olympics World Games from 2025 videos like on YouTube, and I was just like, this is so cool. And I was like sending it to like my mom, like everybody that I knew. I was like, hey, check this out. This is what I'm doing in 2 years. So, we're super excited to really just jump in. Yeah.
Is there a sport that you're excited to see there that you saw in your?
Not like one specifically, because is it the Winter Games?
I don't know.
I can't remember.
I think it's summer.
I think it's summer.
I think so, but we don't know. And
Don't know.
she's a track person, so
Yes.
I bet she's excited to see the track stuff.
Yes.
That'll be really cool. I was going to ask you to share a little bit about what sports you do, because I know that you do basketball, state basketball champion over here.
Thank you. So I do bowling and track and field with Special Olympics Minnesota.
Okay, well, that's awesome. What advice, so we really want to leave kind of our educators and our students that are listening with a really important piece of advice that you can share. What advice would you give to, Paula, I'll have you go first, kind of that educator advice about the impact of Unified, and then Rylynn and Tom for students that might be nervous about getting involved.
So I would advise any educator that wants to be involved in or has any interest to contact Special Olympics, because you were really supportive of my journey because I didn't really know what I was doing, and so that was helpful. But also get your administrators and your counselors. I don't think I got the counselors involved quick enough, like to make sure scheduling all worked out and all fit. Just make sure you communicate with everyone so everyone understands what's going on, because the culture of our whole school changed. I think it really made it a safe place for kids, both typical, atypical. I mean, it didn't really, and they saw all the fun everybody had. And, we brought the mobile polar plunge unit to Stillwater, and that was a big deal because then people saw what we were doing and had a lot of fun with it. And kids that needed something. I think Unified not only brings typical, atypical, it brings the kids that don't feel like they fit, like they were safe. It was a safe place for them. For me, because I was a physical educator, they had to take that class as a requirement. So when they took it, they took it, and then they realized, wow, I can be a leader. I can do things that are, hard, but somebody gave me the opportunity and trusted that I could do it and gave me the tools I needed. So that's what I would share.
I think that's scheduling. We need to have a whole podcast on scheduling, because that's always like this big daunting piece, and I've been amazed at all the different ways that schools work so that it does work in the schedule, but it's never kind of an easy solution. You have to make it work.
And every district's different, like how their schedules are set up and how their schools work. So I think it really is an individualized piece, speaking to that.
Tom, would you share a little bit of advice that you would have?
Yeah, absolutely. For advisors, quickly, I think the best advice that I have is just like doing a little bit of research, like finding videos online or like anything like that of, like I know like Stillwater posted a bunch of videos from Polar Plunge, from like just a bunch of activities, and just like showing that to administrators, like the decision makers, and just being like, this is what we could do here, and just like seeing the impact that it has on the students at one school is phenomenal. But for students, I think it's totally natural to be nervous. I mean, like if you start anything new, it's nervous. Like first day of middle school, you're nervous. First day of high school, you're nervous. First day of college, you're nervous. First day in the military, you're nervous. Like I joined a club rugby team at St. Thomas, and I was like a little bit nervous just because it was something new. And joining Unified, absolutely, I was nervous. But I've met lifelong friends, some of my best friends, closest friends. I have some of my most cherished memories, the most cherished memories from Unified. And yeah, I just think it's a decision that you're just not going to regret.
Has it impacted your college or post-graduation plans?
Absolutely. Well, going to Santiago, Chile is definitely a big one. But it gave me kind of direction in my life too. I was always like a science kid. I've always loved like that kind of thing. And then I didn't really know what I wanted to do with that. And then I found Unified, and I realized like I want to do something that's going to help this community. It's the biggest minority in America, and they're up until 1990 when the American Disabilities Act was passed. They basically had like no representation, no legal rights, no anything like you couldn't take the subway if you were in a wheelchair, which has changed now, thank God. But I mean that was 35 years ago, and I'm 20, so it's the window is it's a closed window. So we still have a lot to gain. But yeah, absolutely, I kind of lost.
Well, another thing I had Tom do and was the school board meeting. Like,
Oh, yes.
so when you said I made him do the coaching, we were going to a school board meeting, or was it school board, or was it when you won the state tournament? We were at the city, and I go, Tom, you should get up and talk.
No, what she said. So City Hall was honoring.
That was it. It was
our
the
win.
basketball win,
And it was really cool for the town to do that, because it was they didn't have to do that, but. Our mayor they had like a big thing at the city hall.
It was a unified PE day,
Yep,
or
it was-
unified basketball
Yeah.
team day. Yeah, it was
It
great.
was a commemoration of our achievements, but like halfway through, she just nudged me and was like, hey, you're gonna go up there and say something. And I was just like, what? And she's like, well, you're the coach, so you gotta say something.
It was better him than me, is what I thought. Because it's student-led. It's all student-led.
But again, on that nervous pieces, it was like, I was like, I got no idea what to say, but I got up there and I said something, and then ever since then, it's always like me and Rylynn almost like jump at the opportunity to public speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then when we did do the school board meeting, he had notes. Like he had,
Yeah.
I go, oh, you have notes, and that's when I met Jackie and your dad the first
Yeah.
time, and she's like, yeah, he's really excited about this. Well, at least he was prepared.
Is it, Rylynn? It's got to be really cool to see like the seeds of you going up and introducing yourself and like helping, introduce and welcome Tom. What an impact that it's had on his life. Would you share, what advice would you have for other students getting involved, and then teachers too?
For teachers, I would say if you have it, use it, because it's really a great thing. I work as a para-sub in our district, and I'm usually in one of the elementary school's special ed rooms, and I'm between the special ed room and general classrooms all day, and I just think it's so interesting how you can see students in there. I'm like, we can do this. And I know, and I've talked to teachers before, and they're like, well, we're waiting for the middle school to get it, then elementary school can pick it up. But I really want to see Unified in the elementary level, because I think it could impact them so much. And then when they get up to middle school or high school, they're like, oh, I already know about Unified, so I can join the club right away. So I really would like see it improve in elementary schools and middle schools, so students have those opportunities.
Yeah, getting right to like the early years, I think, is so important. And starting, I would say, kind of how you were saying, well, we're waiting for this or we're waiting for that, is there could always be things to wait for, but even starting as small as you can with unified programming, or whatever your capacity is, because we know there's so many things happen, it will grow on its own and very naturally. What advice do you have for students?
I would tell students, just go for it. It will change your life. I know, and Tom kind of said it changed his life, it changed mine. We've now built this friendship off, 6 years now? And we've done a lot of really cool things together.
Yeah, and I think it's easy. It's really hard actually to maintain friendships from high school through college. That's one of like the biggest transition time periods. So I think it really speaks to it that you both have built a friendship that's lasted, and as you've both gone to your different post-grad plans. Will you, you spoke a little bit, but also would love to hear kind of from all of you as well as to what would you like to see Unified growing in Minnesota? And so this is good for me to kind of take notes on, like, what would be kind of your dream for what Unified looked like in the state?
Rylynn, you already touched on it. Do you want to?
Yeah.
I know I kind of just touched on like middle school and elementary schools, but I would really like to see like how can we bring Unified into elementary levels? What can they work on that they can bring into middle school levels, and how they can bring that into high school levels? Like how can they bring those transitions with them throughout their life?
No, I would totally agree with that, because as the unified teacher at the high school, it was becoming so popular that some students were taking it and they didn't really know what they were doing. Or ninth graders were taking it and would come in and not really take it seriously or be respectful of our population of students. So one of the things we were trying to do as prerequisite, it was somebody that had been involved in it at the middle school level, even if we can get more of the elementary there. And as you said, Maxine, I think we always talk about we're waiting, and you know, sometimes you just got to jump in. And if you don't jump in and try it in an elementary, you do have to put time in. And I think that's really the other thing, is your time is precious. But when you realize what that time that you invest in this will do, it's a huge piece to invest in. And the other thing that the students have done, both Tom and Rylynn, not only were leaders in the club, they had taken my class a couple of times, at least one, and then were student assistants. And I really couldn't have done it without them. Okay, will you go do this? Will you go do that? You know how to do that over there. And it's like, if you have somebody that's familiar, then it makes the other students that are new in the class going, oh, well, they're doing it. I guess it's a good thing to do. So that was very helpful, that I had two very responsible students to do that. Plus, then I didn't have to work as hard.
Yeah, I guess on a personal level, we kind of saw it at Stillwater, or at least I did. Freshman year, Unified was, I know all of like the Unified classes were basically down like 2 dim lit hallways, and you really didn't see any students with special needs. They were pretty much limited to those 2 classrooms. I don't know if at this point they were having lunch in the cafeteria, but I think some students were still like choosing to get their lunch and then go back to class and eat it there. And then throughout high school, at my senior year, I remember just walking in the hall, and it was like just so natural for somebody with special needs to be talking to somebody who was gen ed. There was one particular student who, I won't say his name, but he was a very rambunctious, very extroverted person. And one thing that he struggled with freshman and sophomore year of my high school career was kind of just like being in this like closely knitted group, and then just being able to kind of expand his friend group, like know everybody. He's a super social guy. So just being able to witness that, where it was like you don't even think about it. I'm taking the language is a little outdated, but it just is part of the class. It's a philosophy, it's disabilities throughout history, and we're just getting like the groundwork done, but there is a very outdated model called the medical model, and it basically says that the impairment is the problem. And so and this was like way back, like this is like 1900s kind of thing. But they were basically saying like the impairment, like the issue starts with the impairment, and then like you need to be able to fit into society based off of that. And then more recently, I believe in the 1970s, something came out called the social model, which is like, no, that's not even close to how it is. It's society that needs to change to adapt to the impairment. And I'm using impairment just because that was the language that was used. And because I just had a quiz on it, so so that's why.
You can send this to your teacher.
Right,
I
yeah.
got it.
That's a different language.
But it's like that natural society piece of it, where it's like when it gets to a point where you don't even notice if somebody is in a wheelchair, or if somebody's a paraplegic, or if somebody has Down syndrome or anything like that. It just is a natural part of life, because they're human beings. Like there shouldn't be like any real difference. Like I'm 6'2", Rylan's shorter than that, but it's not like we're just like, it's not like, but no, but it's, it's not like we're segregating people based off of that fact, so it's something that neither of us can control. I can't be taller or shorter than I am, and neither can Rylynn. That's not a choice that we had. And so just reforming how we live our lives to the point where we don't even have to, notice it.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things within my job, is those times where I see when you change kind of the systems and the structure, the amount that it allows people to be themselves and thrive. And there is a student that I know, and very quiet, because the noises around were just so overwhelming. And so when they were able to work with that, to find spaces that were more welcoming, this student loves to talk. And that it's one of my favorite things, is you can just have the longest conversation, and it's because they changed the way the surroundings were to be welcoming to the person. And so it's my favorite part about my job, and it's really cool to see you learning and knowing that and making change. And I'm so excited for what you're going to do in Santiago, Chile, but also everything leading up to that time. And I know it was hard to you guys have lots of travel, so I was excited to get to, book your time today. But I knew if I got Paula, she could put mics in front of both of you, and that would work. So thank you so much for coming in today and talking with me and sharing with our teachers and students.
Thank you for having us.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank
absolutely.
you.
We are rolling into our last segment of the day, and that is the Opportunity Share segment. Listeners, this is the prime time for you to stay in the know of what's happening at Special Olympics Minnesota. My colleague Alexis on the schools team is here to join me today.
Thank you, Abby. During our Opportunity Share, we will always have a UCS staff member here to share upcoming UCS and SOMN events for you all to stay in the know of what's happening and find opportunities to stay involved with our state office. First and foremost, for our listeners today, we would like to start by highlighting volunteer opportunities with Special Olympics Minnesota. With that said, Abby, what are some highlights for this fall?
October is filled with state flag football, hot cider hustles, and new this year, cornhole. November is a famous state bowling month. Both of these months have events all around Minnesota. I bet there's one near you.
That's fantastic. Truly, it is always a joy to connect with volunteers in our community. And if you're interested in volunteering, we have a place for you.
For our listeners, what are some of the volunteer roles at Special Olympics Minnesota events?
There are so many different volunteer roles available, from cheering, keeping score, handing out awards, and so much more. It truly takes a village to make our events successful, and your time makes a huge impact. Volunteer shifts start at just 4 hours, so grab your friends, family, and colleagues to sign up today. Abby, how can they sign up?
You can visit our website, SOMN.org, to see upcoming volunteer opportunities. We hope to see you at our upcoming events. With that said, I also wanted to touch on the upcoming SOMN Leadership Summit. Alexis, tell us more about this opportunity.
Absolutely. Special Olympics Minnesota will be hosting the second annual Women in Leadership Summit on Friday, November 7th at St. Catherine University. This event is open to UCS students and educators and Special Olympics college and transition students.
Wow, that sounds like such a great event. How can listeners register?
Registration will open on Wednesday, October 1st, and it will fill up quickly as we only have 100 spots. We hope to see you there. Now that is all for our Opportunity Share segment this episode. If you have any questions on how to become more involved or are looking for more information, send us an email at schools@somn.org. Abby, will you close us out with the athlete oath?
As an athlete for 20 years with SOMN, I would love to. Are you ready, Alexis?
Ready.
Let me win, but if I cannot win, let me be brave in the attempt. That's a wrap on episode 6 of the Unified Exchange.